Well, I have you told for so long that it's become part of who you are. Story 1, I once told my boss and colleagues at a lunch function that I was lactose intolerant because I really didn't want a slice of cake that everyone was enjoying. It was made by a chain smoker that I know never washes their hands in a bathroom. To make matters more complicated, I've been dating a woman from that same function for 3 years. I have been living my life lactose-free for the past 3 years for fear of ruining my lie. Edit for a bit of clarification. Yes, I have been abstaining from lactose the entire 3 years, even when alone. I know it's pretty retarded, but it's kind of at the point where it has just gone on for so long. I don't know any different now. Also, I'm not George Costanza, you hilarious bastards. Story 2, that I'm awesome and feel good about myself. As a joke, when people ask me how I enthusiastically say that I was awesome, then it started to become a part of me and how I looked at myself. Turn into confidence, and I now tell myself that I'm awesome if I'm uncomfortable or out of my element. It's calming and reassuring. Edit, holy guys, this thread blew up. It's great to hear how this has worked for so many of you and was a great thing to wake up to the morning of finals. You're all awesome. Story 3, I really hate peanut butter and got tired of people telling me to just give it a chance, so I started saying I was allergic to it. Now it's on all my medical papers, and even my parents think it's true. Story 4, basically my entire life, I'm a stealth transgender woman, so I lie about my past on a daily basis to cover up my birth. I have an entire backstory and fictional history that has become so ingrained that I often forget the truth. Even my name in my memories has switched in childhood memories. I now remember my parents using my new name rather than my birth name. I go long stretches forgetting that I used to be male until something reminds me, like not being able to have children of my own. Someone once attempted to out me at work because they knew someone who knew me pre-transition, and my denial was so convincing that everyone thought she was crazy, and I got massive amounts of sympathy from people. Sometimes I wonder if my real past actually happened at all. It seems so unreal now. Story 5, this thread is starting to get the smell of the downers all over it. So I'm going to be the guy to post this depression hotline 1-630 for 82-9696, suicide hotline 1-800-784-8433, lifeline 1-800-273-8255, Trevor Project 1-866 for 88-7386, sexuality support 1-800-246-7743, eating disorders hotline 1-847-831-3438, rape and assault 1-800-656 for 673, support 1-650-321-5272, runaway 1-800-843-5200, 1-800-843-5678, 1-800-621-4000, exhale after abortion hotline, pro voice 1-866-439-4253, edit more from You Deviant Mumble. Lots of great UK helplines here. Samaritans, confidential support for people experiencing feelings of distress or despair. Phone 08457 9090 24-hour helpline. Another from Yufabergi. Alternatively, if you'd rather chat online than talk over the phone, is great if you or someone you know needs support concerning suicidal thoughts. Please call if you need to. Please. Of course, thanks for the, but I'm going to try and keep the real-life karma roll my way and suggest you donate to the AskReddit organization, which I've been led to believe is a fine organization which supports depression treatment and education. I do drugs for fun and enjoyment. Really, I'm bored, lonely, and depressed, looking for love. Story 6, long time ago when I was a bartender, my bar manager was a chain smoker. Anytime I wanted an extended break just to go outside and chill, I used to tell him I'm going on a smoke break. I always figured chain smokers respected smokers' rights for a smoke break. I've never smoked a day in my life. Story 7, that the reason I'm not in the military anymore is because I fell down a ladder in the line of duty and up my knee. In reality, it's because they found out I was literally about to kill myself. Edit, great, my highest karma comment is about something no one outside my immediate family knows about. Oh, JK, you guys, thanks all for the support. Edit 2, there's a lot of comments from about people dealing with similar situations. I'd love to help, but can't dig through the massive comment pile here. Feel free to PM me, they'll be around for a while. Story 8, I graduated with an English degree and was trying to find a job out where my now husband planned on going to graduate school. I promised him I wouldn't follow after him unless I had a job. I applied to anything and everything with no luck and was running out of time before he moved. So I changed my sum up and said I was a business major instead of an English major, got a job a couple weeks later, which enabled me to move with him. I then combined my fake business degree with my job experience for an even better job several months later. I did this a couple times more until applying for my current job. By that point, My experience mattered more than my degree, and nobody cared. TLDR, use the skills of your crappy English degree to create a more hireable you. Apparently nobody checks that. Story 9, I have a scar on my upper lip and side of my nose. I tell people it's from tripping and face planting in some gravel while walking home late at night. Okay, the gravel part is true, but what actually happened is I was tripping on acid, wandering around in the middle of the night, and began pounding on a neighbor's front door thinking it was my house. The neighbors flipped and called the cops. Cops found me wandering around a short distance away. The cops got out of their patrol car and happened to stand directly under a street light. In my hallucinating state, I believed they were angels, so I approached them and tried to give one of them a hug. Cop took me to the ground hard as, ripping my face open. Cops will do that when you give them a bear hug. They propped me up against the side of the patrol car. I was bleeding all over the place. Ambulance took me to the hospital. They pumped me full of Thorazine, and I woke up the next day in my bed at home. The cops were awesome about it, really worried about me, and almost apologetic for up my face. A couple days later, they called my mother and asked if I'd be willing to talk to them about where I got the acid. I said I didn't want to say, and they let the matter drop. No criminal charges were ever involved. I wrote them a thank you letter a couple of months later for not shooting me. I don't blame them a single bit for what they did. They were amazingly restrained in how they handled it. Edit, there's a whole lot of cop hate in the comments. Okay, that's cool. You can feel that way if you want. Let me add a couple of clarifying details, which I have also posted below, but up here it's more likely to be seen one. There was a period of several minutes where the cops were just talking to me. I was out of it. I have no idea what they were saying to me. Every sound I heard at that point was sort of like a fractal echo. They didn't just pull up, get out, and give me a beat down. It wasn't until they stepped into the street light that I went completely, and decided to grab one of them. Yes, in my mind I was trying to give a hug, but in my mind I've been trying to enter my house earlier. But in reality, I was pounding on some poor old Vietnamese lattice door and screaming my off, so my perceptions were not exactly straight. 2. I had a friend with me. He was sober. He saw the whole thing. He described what happened as you guys went down. I used the term hard as because that's what it felt like. If I could go back and video record it, I would actually, if I could go back, I'd tell myself not to eat 7 hits of blotter called Jesus Christ. Furthermore, if the cops had been abusive, don't you think they would have threatened my friend, somehow coerced him not to say anything about what he witnessed? That didn't happen. 3. It's uncommon to have a total departure from reality from LSD. But again, if you carefully read what I wrote, you'll notice that my alternate universe experience happened while I was sitting against the cop car, bleeding heavily. I was tripping and in shock, for I never said my scar was some massive, horrifying thing. My wounds bled a lot, and it looked pretty awful the first couple of years, but it's hardly noticeable now. Ripping my face open is an accurate description of what happened, but people are assuming way too much based on the small amount of information I posted. Story 10, people think I am some sort of genius because I can tell what day of the week they were born on, but in reality, I just memorized this algorithm. Edit, just want to point out that I'm not a genius, nor really that smart. In fact, I'm a buffoon of the highest order. It took me a little while to commit this to memory, and I just pull it out at social gatherings. Instant genius. I'm also glad to hear that a lot of people have found this interesting and cool. Good luck, fellow geniuses. Story 11, I nearly convinced myself that my dad did not molest me. I spent so much time trying to forget it and live a normal life that when I really did confront that it was fact, it would hit me like a bag of bricks. As of 2 months ago, he's in jail, and unwinding that knot has been real tough. Edit, it's bittersweet this comment sparked such a response. It's sad how incredibly common abuse is. Thank you all for the support and kind words. I want anyone who is struggling with this to feel free to message me. I'm no expert, but sometimes it helps to relate to someone. And please, my username has been commented on like 7 times already. Story 12, I falsified a teacher's signature in order to not get in trouble for not doing homework back in high school. It is now my signature. Edit, I don't know English. Story 13, that things I saw overseas don't bother me. Edit, wow, everyone. Thank you for your support. I have and do talk to people about. I've come to the conclusion that if those things didn't bother me, that means I have a real problem. When it starts to build up, I talk to someone about it, and it lets the pressure off. Story 14, when I was like 15 years old, me and my friends got some cigars. This was my first cigar ever, and I suspect, in hindsight, the first for my friends, but we were all acting like we knew cigars, rating the cigar we were smoking, etc. I decided to one-up everyone by saying that it was an okay cigar, but not as good as a Cuban I'd smoked. My friends jumped on me and pointed out Cuban cigars were illegal, and you can't get them here, news to me at the time. I quickly covered up and said my uncle had brought them over from Cuba to a family gathering, and he had let me have one. To this day, I'm now 31. Anytime cigars come up, one of my friends will say, Gene, you've had a Cuban cigar, right? And I have to go, yep, and then brace for some line of questioning as to how they differ from the cigars we get here. And I make up some like, well, It's the way they're wrapped. That completely worthless lie is 15 years old. Story 15, this one from the deepest, darkest secret thread, stands out after graduating from high school. I went to a small out-of-state college where no one from high school knew me. I was told many times how impressive my false Australian accent was, so I decided it would be great fun to go through college pretending to be from Australia. All of my friends, and even my girlfriend of 2 years, think I'm Australian. I have a completely fake Australian identity, family, and past. I will soon be graduating, and I plan on asking the girl to marry me. Everything she knows about me is Australian. I don't know how to tell her she doesn't really know me. Guess I'm forever a bloke. Edit to clear up any confusion. Am not the person described in this story. You feeling of the sea, posted an update. Everything has worked itself out quite nicely. We're still together, but am happily American again. I've decided I'm not ready to get married at this point, so we're taking everything slow. It was pretty rough when I first told her. She was actually pretty freaked out, but my personality isn't any different. I'm still the same guy. I always have been. I just talk differently and natural now. I guess I should update everyone on the thread, but I just really don't feel like it. Story 16, that I had 3 girlfriends before my first one at 24. They've got names, histories, majors, whatever. Naturally, all evidence, such as photos of their actual existence, was destroyed in the breakups. They each affected me in different ways, and I always carry a lesson from each. I still had feelings for the third one that never went away fully, though she's now married, and that's why I was single for 3 years leading up to the new relationship. Naturally, as I'm confessing it here, it's all horse dash. I moved to a new city and found an opportunity to reinvent myself. So I told these stories in order to be something less than a loner loser who never had a girlfriend all that time. The girls were amalgams of crushes and friends and TV shows and movies and books. The lies careful and believable, and enough truth to avoid raising suspicions at a cursory glance. It was enough that when I got into a proper relationship, I actually seemed to be the more experienced one at relationships. That relationship lasted years, and only once was I caught on the hop with an inconsistent story. To this day, I won't deny that I've had 4 long-term relationships. Story 17, my name is Zan. I told my Korean boss my name was Alex because she couldn't say Zan. I was too uncomfortable to tell my coworkers it was something else, and still haven't. 20 people and outside of work call me Alex, even though I barely recognize it after my name after 2 years working there. Multiple times at work, someone claims to have seen me outside of work and call my name, and I didn't even look. Even though I don't acknowledge Alex as my name, whenever someone asks me my name, it takes a moment to decide which one to use. Story 18, that I'm fun, healthy, happy, outgoing, confident, really am a total wreck, drowning in loneliness, but don't tell all my crap on a Facebook friends. Story 19, the pen is blue. I hate so much, so when ordering things like ribs, I would ask the wait person if they were beef or ribs. This usually resulted in a long delay as they went checked. Much to the dismay of the individuals I happened to be eating with, I got tired of explaining it, so I would just say I'm Muslim. Nobody ever pressed the issue, and friends still refer to me as their Muslim friend and censor themselves in regard to racially or religiously indelicate humor. I am a white atheist, edit spelling. Story 20, am just a middle-aged black guy with a government job, originally from Hawaii. But not long ago, people started noticing I look like a superhero, so I can't really drop it now. Story 21, when I was just a wee lass in the 1st grade, I told a boy the lie that I liked the color blue. I didn't like the color blue. He liked the color blue. I really liked the color pink, but I needed to impress him, and thus I was forever changed into a blue lover. This tortured my 1st grade self for quite a while. Story 22, I doubt anyone will see this now that the thread is 7,000 comments strong and 11 hours old. But here it is anyway. I'm 31 years old, and I've been lying ever since I've been capable of speech. From my youngest of memories until 1,011 years old, I was molested by my father. Every day, he would hurt me, physically and mentally. So with his friends, it became routine, normal. It only stopped because my mother and father split. We went away to a refuge for battered and frightened women, and I spent the next few years getting bounced around different schools. I was not allowed to tell anyone where I lived because refuges are protected places. So I would create fanciful lies. Lies about my parents, about how lovely my life was, how we move around a lot due to my parents' jobs. Kids aren't daft, however. And I guess I was just seen as a fantasist by many. I was a loner for a long time. I constantly tried to run away, and was even featured in a local newspaper once when I was found with my teddy bear clutched by my side and a homemade sign saying, "Please take me." Whilst I was stood in the central reservation of the motorway, I tried to kill myself several times. My private joke is that I even fail at death, which always raises a macabre smile from me. I tried taking a bottle of paracetamol with a bottle of Bailey's one Christmas. Friends found me, called an ambulance, and I got my stomach pumped. I write friends because the worthless that found me was my live-in other half at the time. Another time, I decided to jump in front of a train. I walked for a good hour or so along a train line until I found an out-of-the-way bridge, climbed over the fence, and sat there while getting upset and waiting for a train. But then I started to think about the driver and how selfish it would be to possibly up his job life. And I wussed out. To segue nicely into my next paragraph from the last, all of my relationships have been train wrecks Batum TSSH. The vast majority of them have just given up on me because I am impossible when I dip into my dark moods. I have never cared for any of them enough to tell of my darkest memories and the reasons for why I am the way I am. And so I've tried nearly every type of antidepressant there is. I've talked to people, but not really. I've never actually told a therapist about my childhood. I gloss over it. I cannot talk of it because I have held that door shut for a very long time. And when I slip, and it opens, the anger, violence, sadness, and madness spills all over the place, and there is nothing that I can do to contain it. In fact, it is fair to say that no one frightens me more than I do. Recently, the door was pretty heavily slammed open, and I am a wreck. I spend my days having imaginary conversations with people who have hurt me. I scream, shout, rant, and yell until I go hoarse. I imagine beating the living out of them until they breathe their last breath. I feel a terrible power in those moments. But then I remember that it's all just in the playground of my mind, and the crushing anxiety attacks, breathlessness, and general fear and mistrust of the world, and everyone within it comes right back. However, were you to ask the folks I work with what they thought of me, they would paint a very different picture. I am the model employee. I work hard and am respectful of others. I am funny, charming, and personable, and the person people come to for advice. But this is a smokescreen. I spend my days being a different person. Perhaps it is the person I would like to be. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a person I feel that others will be most comfortable with. One thing I do know is that I should win Oscars for my portrayal of a human being that is not even remotely like myself. Things are coming to a head. Soon something bad is going to happen, and it will be me that makes it happen. The fact that I know this and am absolutely powerless to stop it terrifies me, not least because part of me welcomes it. To the two Redditors who have scrolled this far and actually read this, thank you. Ed and I have been pottering around doing this and that all day, and I just sat back down and logged into Reddit. I am overwhelmed. My inbox was crammed with articulate, funny, witty, heartfelt, and downright genuine, uplifting comments. I actually had tears roll down my cheeks whilst I scrolled and scrolled, and then I find that someone even bought me Reddit Gold. Thank you all so much. I'm going to start to reply to you all personally. It is the least I can do to repay the kindness you have shown me today, but it may take me a while. Thank you, folks, sincerely. I'm so touched that you felt that you could share your stories and experiences with me. It means the world, and I will not forget this kindness shown to me today. Story 23, that my parents splitting up this last year didn't faze me. In reality, I may be 20 years old, but I feel like my whole family is completely ripped apart. I feel like my whole world has crashed down around my head, and that I'm sinking. Everything I assume to be true in the world is wrong. Story 24, I once convinced an acquaintance in from Glasgow for a bet, and now every time I see her, I have to affect the accent. Even around my friend's family, although they already know the situation, am not from Glasgow. Story 25, when I was a kid, I was walking home from my friend's house, and was going to be late 15-minute walk, and had an extremely strict curfew, like 1 minute past curfew is no outside for 5 days. So one of my older brother's friends saw me, came up, and offered to give me a ride on the back of his bike. I agreed, but right when we got near my house, I tried to ask him to stop, because didn't want to be given a hard time about rolling up with a boy, and he was my brother's friend. He didn't hear me, so I jumped off and busted the out of my knee. I told everyone it was from falling while running home to not be late. I didn't end up being grounded, and I still have the scar and still say it was from tripping. Story 26, when I was like 11, my friend's little brother threw a chunk of ice at my face, and it hit me in the temple. I only got a scratch and a headache, but I was pissed because it hurt. It was at recess, so I went to go tell teacher. Then, as I was about to rat out little bro and get ice for an ice injury, I felt bad and decided I just wanted to scare him, so he wouldn't do that again, and quickly told the teacher that I walked into a tree pointed in his direction for the scare factor. He ran away. The teacher was confused but wrote me a pass to go to the office. When I got there, the person that took my pass and read it burst out laughing and said that takes talent because it was a head injury. I had to call my mom and tell her I told her the tree thing as well, and since then, nobody knows that I decided to not get a kid suspended and made myself look stupid by lying. I've been telling the story for so long, I started to see in my brain, TLDR spared a kid some trouble at school and used a tree in place of him throwing ice at me. Story 27, why no? Am not soul-crushingly lonely. Really am not. I mean, I was never a very physical person to begin with, so just hugs are plenty for someone like me. It should be enough to have a good, intelligent man that really cares about me and takes care of me. especially in this economy. And if it's not enough, why? That just means that I'm an overprivileged and a horrible person. I mean, who would throw away an entire marriage over a lack of intimacy? Isn't everything besides there's so much to do? After all, if I'm going to be a writer, then I had better get writing. Spring will be here soon. Wouldn't it be so nice to have some honeysuckle bushes in the backyard? I just love honeysuckle. I need to think about what I should make for our dinners next week so that I can prepare ingredients beforehand. The in-laws may swing by tomorrow, so I had better set aside some extra time for cleaning. I bet you I could take up pottery this summer. It doesn't hurt. Look, laundry. I regularly tell people that I'm claustrophobic as a result of my sister putting me in a box and rolling me down a set of stairs when I was young. I honestly don't remember if it is true or not anymore, but am still claustrophobic as... Story 28, that I left college and joined the IT workforce because my school cut the sport I was on full ride scholarship for. They did actually cut the team the year after I failed out due to giving zero and drinking like a fish. I'm now 35 and at the local community college trying to get some credits built up so I can transfer to a 4-year and finally get that degree. Edit apparently, I need to watch Community as I'm learning a number of these comments are referencing it. Story 29, one of my best friends in high school was molested by her father. I took it to the police, but nothing came of it. Long story short, it kept happening. It really with my head. I had nightmares about it for weeks, mostly involving this giant sense of guilt that I wasn't able to help her. When I went to college, I broke down and told my first girlfriend about it. Only I was so embarrassed by my failure to protect my friend that I told my girlfriend that one night I stole my mom's car to go murder the girl's dad. Only I got to the house, I couldn't physically get out of the car and ended up vomiting on myself from self-disgust nerves and driving home in tears. Only when I tell the story, I word it like I'm some tragic hero who just couldn't pull the trigger on cold-blooded murder, like my cowardice was somehow proof of my moral fortitude. Then I make sure to comment on how immature and dumb I was back then. My girlfriend responded with such love and caring that I've used the story to manipulate people into feeling close to me ever since. It's up, I know, but now I find myself questioning whether or not it's actually a lie. Like when I recount my past to myself, I feel extremely guilty for this incident. Not for telling a lie, but I feel legitimate guilt and sorrow for something I never actually did. Story 30, when I was in college, 3 friends and I encountered a ghost in the library basement. We all had the same story after it happened, which I thought was proof that it really happened, but over a decade later, I'm not sure if what I remember is what I actually saw, or am just remembering the story that we recounted numerous times. Also, when I was in college and came out as a lesbian, my friends asked me if I ever slept with a guy. For some reason, I thought it would be a good idea to say that I had. I told them of the time a gay guy friend and I were in my bedroom, and we were crying together because being gay in our small town was scary. We ended up holding each other, then kissing, then briefly having, just to try. That was actually based on a true story. We did cry and hold each other, and we almost kissed, but didn't. And of course, that never happened. But I told the false version of that story for years when a new Fred acquaintance asked if I'd been with a guy. Story 31, I guess it's not necessarily a lie, but I believe that there is something beyond death to be experienced and appreciated. I use it as a coping mechanism to mitigate my fear-distaste of death. Story 32, that I'm allergic to perfume. I'm actually allergic to some sorts of flowers that are in perfumes. I really just hate the smell, but at least 60% of perfumes don't set off my allergies. Story 33, my wife thinks we met on the internet. We didn't. We actually met on a bus, almost a full year before we met for the first time. I was utterly captivated by the way she looked, the way she dressed, and oh God, how lucky I felt when she sat down beside me. I deliberately missed my stop to stay next to her for an extra 30 minutes. And then got off where she did and immediately stopped, pretending to make a phone call as she walked off. I waited until she was too far away to hear me, and seeing that she hadn't looked back at any point, I found the courage to follow her home. With her address at hand, I returned to my own home to try and find the name. I didn't have any luck trawling public records, so in desperation, I had MySpace bring up the profile of every female user in the area. I scrolled through page after page of profile pic thumbnails, but I recognized her instantly. What followed was 9 months of trying to contact her. I didn't rate my chances highly, so I decided to contact her first on some fake profiles to give myself a safe sandbox to get to know her without any risk of my mistakes damaging my chances with her. When I knew enough about her to contact her from a genuine profile. It was tough at first. The first 2 accounts didn't even get responses out of her, so I started looking at the profiles of her existing friends and mimicked those, copying their interests and music tastes. I started chatting to her, first from one identity, then from another. At one point, I was talking to her under 3 different names at once, each with a different personality, as I tried to figure who her perfect guy was. Eventually, when I was ready, I friend one of my fake profiles with my real one, and then had the fake me invite the real me into a group chat with her. We hit connected instantly. It was magical. I could always say exactly what she wanted to hear. My sense of humor was perfect. My politics and worldview mirrored her own. We loved the same music. We had so much in common. It took me just one more month to finally meet her in person for the first time. I was absolutely paranoid. Shed recognized me as the guy on the bus that one time, but she didn't. 2 years later, I married her despite our entire relationship being founded on my lies. Whenever I think about it, I feel like a creep, a stalker, some kind of criminal, but then I look at her and she's here, happy with me still. It's me that suffers with the truth, not her. So what if I'm going to spend the rest of my life pretending I like the Beatles and thinking fur coats are evil? Story 34, my parents are super religious. So, despite the fact that I've had 2 serious long-term relationships, one where we were living in the same house, they still believe I'm a virgin, into my 20s, and I still don't have the heart to break the news. Religious parents are the worst. Story 35, that I'm Hawaiian. I tell everyone this, and was even planning on making a mixtape highlighting my Hawaiian roots, cash, and pineapples, that I have a master's degree. I was trying to get into medical school, but I got denied after undergrad. I needed something to do for 2 years as I applied to med school. Started a grad program. After a year and a half, I applied to med school. My graduation date for grad school was May. I found out I got accepted into medical school in March. Since I was accepted to med school, I slacked off in my grad classes, failed my very last class, couldn't graduate. I was missing 1 credit. They didn't offer courses in my program in the summer. They wanted me to take 1 class in fall. Med school started in the fall. You can't be in 2 programs at once. Screw the graduate program. So I went to med school and finished all that and started working. Everyone, including the med school, friends, family, coworkers, etc., all think I have a master's program. Even the hospital I work at thinks I do, and MS is after my name. Turns out I don't have the degree. I'm 1 credit short, that I'm not falling in love with my best friend. But in reality, I keep having this recurring dream where I walk away from school and leave for New York to spend the rest of my life with her. I also pretend that I'm not getting closer and closer to doing it with every passing day. Story 36, once when I was 7, I was showing off to some girls and attempted to flip off the high bar. Although I had done this multiple times before, this time I slipped and fell on my elbow. I broke it, and I started telling my family some girl pushed me off. It was glorious. All this sympathy. Story 37, I made up a friend in middle school. First, it was just to have an excuse not to see anyone outside of class or to have something to write stupid daily journals about. But soon, she evolved in her own persona with her own friends and family and issues and hopes and dreams. From 5th grade, she was my older friend from my past school who talked to me on the phone. In 6th, she became my friend who just moved back from Montana. 7th grade and 8th were the years she really changed. She grew to become the girl I'd spend my weekends and spring breaks with. She became my bestie, my other half, my soul sister. Eventually, her life leaked into mine. Her friends became mine. She and I shared talents and interests. She kind of became who I wanted to be. I think making an alter ego of sorts helped me realize my own faults and what things I wanted to change. She was the kick in to actually get me to change for the better. I began high school, and from then on, I actually made a point to be social. So the crutch of my alter ego wasn't needed anymore. I'm in my junior year, and I still occasionally slip the name Mary Beth into a conversation, just for old time's sake. Story 38, my best friend freshman year, went to rehab after moving, and when he came back, he was so different that it scared me. I blocked his number and told everyone I knew that he committed suicide. It's been almost 6 years, and nobody knows he's happily engaged up in New York. I don't know why I did it, and it's been so long that I can't tell anyone that he's just fine. We still talk from time to time. Story 39, the fact that my ex and her new boyfriend like to make fun of me doesn't bother me. I know it shouldn't. I haven't seen her in over a year, but I know through multiple acquaintances it's still going on. Thing is, it doesn't even matter that it's an ex. It's just that it's going on at all. I feel like I'm a good, honest guy. I'm just clumsy and stutter when I'm nervous, so it's really just affecting my self-esteem, and I really need it right now for my job. I can barely speak for days after I hear about it, and it makes me depressed to the point I get so lethargic and break plans that I've had for months. Story 40, in passing all of my classes. So far, I'm not passing a single one this semester, and it's really hard to find the motivation to try. Edit should add, this is my 2nd semester. I appreciate the comments so far, though. I'm really just trying to pull through and get better study skills because I have none. I don't think I want to quit just yet. Also, I have scholarships, really like the university, and the girlfriend will be attending next year. Plenty of reason not to give up. Now I just need to be motivated by it.